Hey, my church, Pastor Jim here, and welcome to Bless Someone Sunday. The Sunday after Christmas is where we don't meet as a group, but instead we go out and be the church and we bless someone with the $5 donation from the church that you were given for each member of your family. But before we go into the details of that, I want to share a story with you. And it may be a story that you've never heard of before. It's the story of the fourth wise man. That's right, the fourth wise man. Now, let me break this down for a second. This story is completely fictional, which means it's not true, but the story has a really good message, especially for us blessing someone else. And so as you listen to it, I want you to see if you can figure out the message before I get to the end. And so the story is about this man named Artaban. And Artaban was set to go travel to Bethlehem with his three friends. Now, his three friends, of course, were the other wise men, and they had gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And what Artaban did is he sold everything he had so that he could buy three gifts of his own. And he bought three jewels. He bought a pearl, a sapphire, and a ruby. And on his way to go meet up with his friends to go to Bethlehem, he saw a dying man alongside the road. And he had to make a decision. He could go ahead and leave the man dying there, and surely the man would die. Or he could do the right thing and wait and help him and nurse him back to health. And Artaban knew that if he did that, he would surely miss his friends going off to Bethlehem. But see, Artaban did the right thing. And so after he had nursed the man back to health, he went to his friend's house, and sure enough, they had left, and they left even a note that said, "We waited as long as we could, but we couldn't wait any longer." Artaban looked at all the things that he had and realized he did not have enough to make the travel on his own, to get there on his own. And so he had to sell the ruby in order to have enough things in order to make the journey to Bethlehem. And so he sold the ruby, and once he got to Bethlehem, he's heard that the mother, the father, and the baby were gone, that they had fled to Egypt. And the person who told him this was a single parent. And she knew that Artaban was a traveler, so she invited him into her home. And while she cooked a meal for him, Artaban played with her 2-year-old son. But suddenly, there was a loud noise outside, and someone had shouted that Herod's soldiers are coming to kill every child, every boy. And so Artaban did what he could do. He stood in the doorway, and when the soldiers came to the house and asked, "Where is the boy?" Artaban grabbed the other jewel that he had. He grabbed the sapphire, and he handed it to the soldier and said, "There's no boy here." And the soldier held the sapphire in his hand, and he called off the other soldiers and told them to go to the next house. Now Artaban was really sad because now he had lost two, or given away two of three of his precious jewels. But he knew that he did it for a good cause. After that, Artaban headed to Egypt because that's where this king that he had been looking for had supposedly gone with his family. But he searched everywhere in Egypt and he couldn't find him. But someone told him there in Egypt that this king can be found among the poor, the weak, those who are in prison, the sick, and the dying. And so Artaban spent 33 years of his life with people who were sick, who were poor, who were dying, those who were the least of these in society. But he didn't find the king. But then one day, Artaban heard that this king that he had been searching for all his life was being crucified in Jerusalem. And so Artaban hurried over and he made it to Jerusalem. And as he's walking up to the mount where Jesus was going to be crucified, a woman broke free from the soldiers and she fell down at Artaban's feet. And she said, "Please have mercy on me. Save me, because what these soldiers are going to do to me is going to be worse than death." Artaban reached into his pocket, and the only thing he had left, the only gift he had left, was that pearl. And he gave it to the soldiers and said, here is her ransom." As that happened, the sky went dark and there was an earthquake. And Artaban knew in that moment that the king was dead. And in that moment, with the earthquake, a boulder fell on Artaban. And as he laid there dying, the woman who he just helped leaned into him to tell him thank you. And she heard Artaban's prayer. His prayer that he cried out to God and said, Lord, Lord, I spent 33 years of my life searching for you. I searched for you among the broken, the least of these, the sick, the dying, but I will never see your face. And then the woman heard distinctively a voice from heaven that said, Artaban, what you did for the least of these, you did for me. The woman looked at Artaban, and he had this heavenly smile on his face as he closed his eyes and died. Jesus doesn't need any gifts from us. Jesus is a gift for you and for me. God doesn't need our help, but our neighbors do. The people that we meet in our lives need our help. And so my ask is this: will you help them? Will you take that $5 and use it for the person in front of you, for the person that maybe God's Spirit leads you to give that money to help them out along the way, whatever way that is, to bless them? My ask is, don't overthink it, but instead pray about it and let God's Spirit lead you. And together, we can bless someone this Sunday. Thank you, my church. Thank you so much for an incredible year, and it's such an honor to be called your pastor. We have so many amazing things happening in 2023. It's so weird to even say that, but it's here. And so I look forward to seeing you next Sunday when we meet in our small groups. Until then, be safe and God bless.